Have you ever played peekaboo with a child? If not, you're really missing out. It's really popular in baby circles. And what if I told you there were some parallels to be had between childhood development and the development of yourself as a leader of yourself and others? Hi, my name is Chantel. I'm a speaker, a teacher, a coach, and a mom. And I hope that the little nuggets and food for thought that I'm offering you on this channel are things that you found useful to take and use to create and jump off into the best version of your life that you can create for yourself, because you can. If you are enjoying these videos, please remember this little like and subscribe button over here helps make sure that the content is searchable so other people can find it. Today, I want to talk to you about cognitive development and what it means for the different roles that we play. So the last couple of weeks threw up some real lessons for me in the area of situational leadership. And in trying to analyze these things and find the lessons and how I would do things differently or the same in future situations, I came across this really great video by one of my favorite content providers. It looks at how a popular animated movie, The Incredibles, gets a few things right about childhood development. And while watching it, I thought, wow, there are actually some pretty cool parallels between that and the development that I feel I'm going through as a leader. So Jean Piaget is a Swiss psychologist who is known for his work in observing and documenting the cognitive development of children. He identified 4 stages of cognitive development. So the first stage is the sensorimotor stage. And in that one, kids are all about the touching and the feeling, and they're identifying what works and what doesn't by directly experimenting with their world. One of the key milestones in this stage is the development of object permanence. Until they develop object permanence, a child thinks that when something falls out of its view and they can no longer see it, it ceases to exist. This is why your youngest children, your babies, are really anxious when their parents leave. Take a look.
Would you like a cucumber? How good's your memory? The cucumber's here? Where did it go? Where'd the cucumber go? Where'd the cucumber go? Where's the cucumber? It's interesting. Did you get distracted? Or did you? That's not. That's not the cucumber.
So for a child, the sensorimotor stage is exactly what it sounds like. They're driven by their senses, touch, feel, sight, sound. They respond and react to those stimuli. It's all about experimentation and interaction with the environment. They're learning to conceive of themselves as separate to the world around them. And a major milestone from this time is realizing that even when I no longer see her, my mother continues to exist. So does the cucumber. What does it look like for a leader? Something I really love are the energizing sessions we have where the CEO or the ultimate head of the organization is presenting the mission and vision and showing you how that big picture connects, where we're going, what we're trying to achieve. Really helps you understand how you fit into all of it. But take yourself out of the training room and put yourself back in your office, and often there are crises springing up all around you. Try as you might, it's really difficult to keep sight of that big mission and vision when it's not directly in your line of sight. You get caught up being reactive to and responding to challenges, and sometimes forget about paying attention to the end goal. So perhaps the parallel for a leader, the mission continues to exist, even when it's out of your sight or obscured by all of the daily crises you're seeking to solve. Then you get the preoperational phase, from about the ages of 2 to 7, cause and effect, the emergence of the understanding of symbols and symbolism. Something I see here that looks a certain way represents the same thing in a different space. So one thing that children are trying to get to grips with is the concept of conservation. In the context of cognitive development, conservation means understanding that even if you change the shape or dimensions of something, that doesn't increase its quantity. Take a look.
Okay, does this row have more quarters? Does this row have more quarters, or are they the same?
The same.
The same? Okay, now watch. Now, does this row have more quarters? Does this row have more quarters, or are they the same?
That one has more quarters.
That one has more quarters?
Yeah.
Why?
How does that parallel to leadership? Well, I hypothesize that at this stage in your leadership development journey, you're becoming more aware of the impact that you have. You've identified that certain approaches work well in certain situations and recognize that this resembles another one and you could apply it to that. So you may still be applying a universal response to the situations you're trying to deal with because you're trying to translate a context that symbolizes this in one space into another. So a lesson for the child in this space is, even if you stretch the pennies out, you still have the same amount. And for a leader who's starting to spin their wheels and try to make progress based on the observations that they're making, more does not necessarily equal more. Stretching yourself and your resources to its limit is not necessarily going to yield better or more effective outcomes. The concrete operational stage, otherwise known as the most stubborn time of your child's life. In this stage, between the ages of 7 and 11, there is the emergence of inductive reasoning. Children are deepening their understanding of the relationships between contexts, but their reasoning is still really concrete and literal. It's black or it's white. It's right or it's wrong. Take a look.
Hit a glass with a hammer, the glass will break.
I knew that.
And then this one says, Dawn hit a glass with a hammer.
I knew that too.
So what happened to the glass?
It broke
It broke. Why did it break?
because the hammer's hard.
If you hit a glass with a feather, the glass will break.
No, it won't.
And this is the second rule. Dawn hit a glass with a feather. What happened to the glass?
Nothing.
Nothing happened. Why didn't anything happen?
Because the feather's soft.
So the video that you just saw was based on application of rules. If the rule is hit the glass with a feather, it'll break. What'll happen if you hit the glass with a feather? And the child was like, no way, it's never gonna happen. If you hit a glass with a feather, nothing's gonna happen, which is true of the real world, but they're not yet able to make that transfer of concepts. So for a child who's working on establishing their inductive reasoning, a lesson from this, or one key milestone, might be, when the rules change, so does the outcome. What's the leadership parallel? Well, you're also developing your inductive reasoning. You're looking at the context and situations you've been dealing with, and you're trying to get better at solving problems. But just like the child, you may still be a little concrete in your approach. You have figured out something that works, and you want to make it work in every situation. For instance, I may be coaching someone and they're going through something challenging, and I've learned from my pre-operational phase that I need to be a little bit more flexible and fluid in how I approach it. So I test out empathy, and it works. Hey presto. Another coachee comes to me later in the day with a similar set of challenges, and I immediately go to the toolkit for the thing that worked the last time. But it fails miserably, probably flummoxed and wondering what could I possibly have done wrong. And both children and leaders in this stage of their development may be a little egocentric. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're being selfish and all about yourself, but it means that you're centering yourself in the solutions that you're seeking. You're focusing on how it makes you feel and how you may respond to the situation, seeing every problem as something that you have to solve personally. So the lesson for the leader may be, it's not all black and white, it's not as concrete as it may at first seem. Leadership is situational. And then finally, the formal operational stage, which is where, according to Piaget, we should all be headed. That's from 11 years onwards. Development of abstract thought. For a kid, this is how that looks.
A head right here,
Why?
so I can see what people are doing behind me. Someone sneak up with them.
So the ultimate outcome of this is us being able to synthesize what it is that we know to come up with nuanced solutions that are appropriate to different contexts, even if we haven't experienced them personally before. For a leader, it could be the beginning of embracing the impact and input of multiple people, recognizing the value of a team, understanding that you don't have to do everything yourself, and that yours is to empower. So what will knowing all of this do for you? Well, hopefully give you a little bit more insight and patience with your children and with yourself, as you recognize that there are different stages in your journey developmentally, whether you're talking about your childhood cognitive development or the development of you in whatever role you're born into. And we rebirth ourselves into multiple roles over the course of our lives. Just like children sometimes skip ahead a little bit or move back and forth between the different levels, so do we. So you may feel like you have it figured out and have a nuanced and kinetic approach to leadership in a certain space, but bring in something new, shift up the elements a little bit, and you may find yourself leaning back. Remember all of those habits and the things that we have to retrain and unlearn? Yeah, it's not always possible to be super attentive to them all the time. So if you find yourself slipping back or falling on old patterns that no longer serve you, it may be because you're trying to find your ground in terms of what the situation needs and have to go through that little bit of growth and development in that space in order to get there. So friends, I hope that you found this helpful. As always, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like, leave a comment. Until next time, stay safe and see you soon.